Hey, what's up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero back again. Recording this video for the 15th time, I swear, because everything and its mother is getting in my... Anyway, guys, we're going to be talking about why boycotting Konami may not work and all the ins and outs of that. And this video is inspired by King Scarlet. If you don't know who that is, you should go subscribe to them. He's a very funny guy, and he brought some really interesting things on Twitter, and I'm going to talk about it here in this video because I was inspired by what he tweeted. So I figured let's go ahead and talk about it. But before we get into that, if you guys want to support this channel, the handful of ways you can do that is you can check out my Spring store and get you some merch with my logo on it, or you can go to my Your Playmats link and get you some custom sleeves. All of that stuff is in the description below, and please consider subscribing and like the video. And let's see if we can't get a conversation going. So, first things first, let's go over what King Scarlet said. Alright, so King Scarlet said, let's address the real problem though. We all complain and then gobble up what Konami gave us 5 minutes later. We can tweet all we want, but who cares? Numbers talk. The only way Master Duel will improve is if enough of the community actually stops logging in, but we won't. Same thing with bad product. I've seen people complain, whine, say, how dare you, Konami? Then they open up a case of said product. We complain, then show Konami that we will buy or participate in literally any garbage that they throw at us. Like I said, streamers especially that do not do it for a living, why would you not play Master Duel? Viewership is insane. A lot of not playing it is literally taking an L to other Yu-Gi-Oh! Streamers. I don't know what the heck they're supposed to do other than play this awful product and pretend it's fun. And I said, is this a bad time to admit I haven't logged in since the Xyz Festival? Which is very true. I haven't. So let's see here. We've gone over Scarlet. Alright, so let's start with Master Duel. Right? I haven't logged in since the Xyz Festival for a variety of reasons. Partially Konami, partially the player base. It's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag on that one, but yeah. I have to say, I think King Scarlet is ultimately right about this when it comes to Master Duel, particularly. There are too many players who are willing to just grit their teeth and go with it, and they'll say things like, oh, well, this is the early stage of the game, and I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that that's not an excuse for Konami to release a bad product. So, I haven't logged in. Honestly, I'm not playing in it, and I'm sure you guys have noticed that I haven't made a Master Duel Monday in for freaking ever, and that's the big reason why, is because Master Duel isn't fun. It also isn't beneficiary to me to play it, because, like, what's the point of playing Master Duel if it doesn't help me with the physical card game, right? If I can't test the decks that I want to play against the decks that are being played right now, it just doesn't serve me to play Master Duel, right? Especially, even if just preparing for my locals. Like, the decks that are good in Master Duel right now are not the decks that are good in the TCG. So, in my personal experience, it doesn't serve me well to use Master Duel. Now, that being said, the ban list that Master Duel showed wasn't a ban list. It was a, here's a ban list, please stop complaining, quit your crying, and get back to playing the game. That's literally all that was, and it's just lazy Konami. Konami being lazy and not doing what they're supposed to do. It's literally all it boils down to. That's the big thing with Master Duel. Also, because and here's the thing. The boycotting thing doesn't necessarily work on Konami a whole lot. Mostly it's been ineffectual because of, like, lack of support from the player base. That's the big number one reason why this doesn't work. But, like, Master Duel is actually the one spot where it actually could work. Master Duel in particular is the one, and the digital products are actually the one spot where it can work to boycott Konami products. And we're going to talk about the TCG's whole bag of worms in just a minute. But this area is the one thing, because you logging in and actually playing the game kind of is a there's no way there's not a record of that kind of data on Konami's end. So they know if people are logging in and playing their game. So if enough people said, this game is trash, I'm not logging in to play, Konami will then say, okay, well, why is that? And then they would look over here on Twitter and YouTube and say, oh, I'm boycotting the game because it's not fun, it's boring, it's Konami's doesn't help with testing for the real game, which is very true. Master Duel was more of feels like it's more of an alternate format where the idea was like, well, if we can't play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh in person, we'll play it through this application, and you can go to Worlds and stuff through that instead of having to deal with the whole COVID situation, which was a real, which is, you know, it's a real clever way to do that, I think. But like I said, you know, it without the ability to play the TCG and the OCG as the current formats as they are, it's an ineffectual application. It's an ineffectual game. The simulators that pre-existed Master Duel are all better than Master Duel for the said purpose. Straight up. Edo Pro, Dueling Book, what's the other one? yugioh Pro 2. All of them are going to be better than this one right now, and that's just fact. So until these things get fixed, honestly, so Master Duel is just never going to have any kind of level of interest for me personally. It's pretty, it's got really cool animation, and I'm sure that that's real fun. But the truth is, if I really wanted that in my videos, I could easily just clip it and stick it in the Edo Pro comment because the gameplay is the same. It doesn't, it literally could just clip it together. It doesn't mean anything to me. But that's the digital side of it, and that's the actual side you actually might have if you can get a concentrated power of players to actively stop doing it. That would work. 100% would work. I think that if you could get a number of Yu-Gi-Oh players in just any region, not even just the United States, if you could get any region to just say, okay, cool, if every Yu-Gi-Oh player that plays on Master Duel in, say, Germany said, nope, we're not going to touch it until you fix this problem, then we would all win. It doesn't even have to be the worldwide, it could just be any region. And then Konami would go, ooh, okay, that's a significant number of players to say we probably should do something and fix this. That would work with the digital one. The digital side of the game, which is where Master Duel, Duel Links, etc. exist. Now, King Scarlet also brings up the physical product, and this one is a whole separate can of worms, and I'm going to be going into each individual level of the reason why boycotting Konami product doesn't actually work. The big reason why is because, yes, what he's talking about happens. There are players who complain that this is a bad product, then they buy the bad product anyway. Because, especially if you're in, like he mentions, the streaming side of things, it also is with the YugiTube side of things. Sometimes you have to open product you're not really interested in because that's what part of your stuff is. Like, look at Simply Unlucky. I guarantee you that guy has opened up product he had no interest in at all. And he was just like, oh, yay, I gotta open it up and act like I'm excited about it. Yeah! That's literally what he had to do. And it's not to say that, like, look, I get it. Go get your bag, bro. And the same with the streamers who do it for a job. I get it. Go get your bag. You're not at fault here. You're kind of stuck in a bad situation. And, ultimately, but to get back to the physical stuff, that's just one level of it. You still have the people who complain about it anyway. That is one level of it. Because here's the thing, Konami is very meticulous about it, and they do put product together in a way that they know that even if it's bad product, it will still sell because of the group that maybe that there's always going to be at least one of the major groups that it targets, right? There's going to be the nostalgia players, the /casual /competitive, the casuals, you know what I mean, who are just like, ooh, this is cool, I like this archetype, it's kind of this ice theme, that's kind of nice, that kind of thing. Then you'll have the players who are the collectors, and then you'll have the competitive players. So every product is going to have either one thing or a handful of things that are going to target each of the groups. And so there is that. So you have the collectors, right? They will buy the product trying to collect the ghost rare dark magician girl where there's only 20 of them in the entire world or whatever, because it's all about having this rare card that nobody has. That's the collector's mindset. So the rest of it they don't really care. So like say that if the product doesn't have any competitive cards, they don't care. It's about collection for them, right? That's just one side of it. They're there to collect those impossible to find cards, or or all the waifu cards, or whatever their collection is. Then you have so they don't really care if that product doesn't have any competitive cards in it, or very little. Then you have the competitive players, right? Let's say that all the cards everybody wants out of any given set are all high rarity. You know what I mean? So they're impossible to find, and it's very competitive. We'll use the Brave Engine as an example. Brave Engine wasn't the only thing that was competitive in that set, but it's the most competitive thing in the set that it came out of, in my opinion. And that being said, because the budget players can't afford that, right? So we point out, hey, you should have put something in that set that's equally as powerful as the Brave Engine, but the budget players could play. And Konami's not going to care, because the competitive players aren't going to care, because they're willing to pay that money and get what they want, because it doesn't matter the ethics of the product for some players. If it either doesn't affect them, or it might even favor them, like in the case I mentioned with the competitive player and the collector. Those people don't really care if the whole product as a whole is good or ethical, because they're benefiting off of it. So, you know what I mean? Like, for example, if the competitive player doesn't have to fight a bunch of good budget players, good, at a given tournament, you know what I mean? It's a win for them. It's like, oh, cool. And if, let's say, there was a concentrated effort, right, of Yu-Gi-Oh players who are like, well, I'm not going to buy X product because it's bad. It only favors the high baller competitive players. Those players will look at it and go, good. That means less opponents with good cards in their deck that for me to have to play against. Free wins all day. That's how a lot of them are going to look at it. And I'm also basing that off of my personal experience. I know that not all competitive players think that way. I want to go ahead and stress that. I know you don't all think that way, but I do know that there are a lot of you that do, especially the ones that I personally know, right? Out of the 10 or so that I personally know and interact with on a semi-regular basis, yeah, a good chunk of them would just think free wins, and they will buy the bad product so they can get to the really good expensive rare cards that that nobody else is going to buy that product for, because they're trying to make Konami, maybe, I don't know, whatever the goal is, maybe stop making bad products, or stop making competitive cards at super high unattainable rarities, etc., whatever the goal may be. So there is that level of it too. And then, of course, the last group of Yu-Gi-Oh people that I think are the reason why boycotts in the physical card game doesn't work is the naysayers. The naysayers are the people who are, like, for example, who comment in Zodiac, right? Like, for example, let's say you go to Zodiac, you post, here's a list of issues that I have with Konami, and they're all legitimate criticisms of the company that owns the game. The naysayers, who will go on Zodiac, will say, oh, you're just a scrub, get good, or, they'll just say, as it should be, or they'll say something along the lines of, you don't like it, you can just leave. They don't offer anything of value, or, you know what I mean, to the conversation. Or they'll go to your personal page, look at your politics, look at your gender identity, whatever, and they'll find something to nitpick at instead of the actual topic of conversation. Like, I've literally seen people say, oh, I don't like that Konami prints off all of the best competitive cards at high rarity, and then because that person happened to be gay, they got a slur of, a slew of slurs thrown at them in the Zodiac comment section. Now, granted, that was like, 5-10 years ago, or whatever. You know what I mean? On Zodiac, so things are probably a little different on Facebook now, but you get what I'm saying. They'll nitpick at something personal. Like I've literally had a conversation or arguments on Facebook in Zodiac Duelist about Yu-Gi-Oh, and then had a person who was mad at what I said go to my Facebook page and then nitpick at my politics instead of commentating about the Yu-Gi-Oh game, which is what we were arguing about. It's a little bit funny, but it's still kind of like, really, you brought up my politics in a Yu-Gi-Oh conversation as a neg to what I was saying. Anyway, point being, that's one of the big things why. So you do have there's too large of the player base who either won't change and won't do it, you know what I mean? And frankly, and like I said, you got the naysayers who are just going to bootlick Konami and they're not going to care. The other reason why I think is because we are actually in a subsection of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of Konami with Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what I'm trying to say. Right, so the reason why our boycotts don't work is because Konami is a gaming corporation that owns several gaming properties, right? If we stop buying Yu-Gi-Oh, they'll just stop making products for Yu-Gi-Oh and focus on another game. Because basically boycotting Yu-Gi-Oh to Konami is the equivalent of boycotting the produce section at a Walmart because they get their produce from prison labor. It doesn't help if you still go into the Walmart to buy potato chips and a DVD, or a TV and a Snickers bar. It doesn't really matter if they're not making a whole lot of money. They'll just stop. If it was that big a deal, they would just stop selling produce. You know what I mean? If it became that big enough of a deal. So honestly, I think in order to any kind of boycott of any Konami product, you really have to boycott the products as a whole for Konami to listen. And to be honest, because a lot of the games don't overlap for players, like I am not aware of everything Konami owns. I have it pulled up here on Google. I know of Silent Hill, Metal Gear, Castlevania, Frogger, and Dance Dance Revolution. Those are the things that I'm aware of, along with Yu-Gi-Oh! The games that Konami owns. But I think Silent Hill is also co-owned by another thing, which is why we haven't got another game. And I guarantee you, the fans of Dance Dance Revolution aren't going to stop buying Dance Dance Revolution products because of bad Yu-Gi-Oh! Products. So that's just a small example. I don't know if Konami's still even making Dance Dance Revolution games or not. I don't know. I'm just using that as an example. Castlevania fans are not going to stop watching the Netflix special because of bad Yu-Gi-Oh! Product. So that's one of the reasons why boycotts with Konami don't really work, is because they have so many pockets of products that they would just stop making Yu-Gi-Oh! Is ultimately what it would do, and then we'd all lose because, maybe the collectors would be the only ones who win in that scenario because, now their collection of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards that are really rare, or that are sitting in a binder, are going to be even more rare as an item because Konami stopped making Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, right? So it'd be like, it might be a dead game, but they could be like, oh, this game was uber popular from 2000 so-and-so to, 2000 so-and-so, and look at that. I've got all these uber rare cards that were very extremely rare even when the game existed. So, they probably be the only ones who would win in that scenario. But anyway, guys, that's what I think when it comes to boycotting Konami and why it doesn't actually work. But if you have a different opinion, please respectfully tell me in the comments below. That's kind of a big rule, by the way, on my channel. If you're gonna comment in the comment section, be polite. I will use the mute button and be cruel. So, you've been warned. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like I said, but be polite about it. And, yeah. Well, guys, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'm Benji, that was yugioh. I am your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero. So, and share this with your friends. Let's see if we can't get a conversation going.